And we begin in Kabul, Afghanistan, a city that's been hit hard by deadly terror attacks in recent months. Thursday, there was another. Officials say a suicide bomber killed 41 people and wounded dozens of others. Condemnation and pledges of support are pouring in from world leaders. Hala Garani has more now on the attack.
Cries of anguish as some of the victims of Afghanistan's latest bombing are taken away. Dozens of lives lost in a mass casualty attack claimed by ISIS. A suicide bombing mid-morning at a Shia cultural center in the heart of Kabul during a lecture marking the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. An initial blast was followed by 2 other explosions. The victims, many of them with burn wounds, struggle to make sense of what happened.
There was a book reading program and an academic dialogue, and I was one of the participants. During the speech, a huge bang was heard, and smoke rose from inside the hall. My face was burning.
This man works with the Afghan Voice news agency, which has an office in the building.
I was sitting inside the office on the 2nd floor when suddenly I heard a huge bang and the door hit my face. I panicked and I looked out from the rooftop. That's when I saw smoke coming up from the underground.
Here, women sift through debris at the site of the attack, looking for reminders of their loved ones lost in the blast. At one hospital, families gather, searching for loved ones, and workers bring in coffins for those who did not survive. Here, it's the latest version of a story told far too often. According to the United Nations, there have been more than a dozen attacks on Shiites in Afghanistan by ISIS affiliates in the past 2 years alone, with hundreds dead or wounded. Hala Garani, CNN.
Now, CNN senior international correspondent Arwa Damon has covered the impact of terrorism all over the world. She is reporting from Istanbul, Turkey right now, and she has details on the Kabul attack and a look at the ongoing fight against ISIS.
The cultural center where the attack took place is also where the Afghan news agency has its offices, and this suicide bomber was able to infiltrate this gathering of around 100 or so people before detonating the suicide vest. It was then followed by 2 other explosions, and in the aftermath of these attacks, you just keep hearing people say that they are tired. They're tired of continuously burying their dead, especially in recent months since that devastating attack that took place also in Kabul over the summer that was also claimed by ISIS that left around 150 people dead. There has been, relatively speaking, an increase in violence. And of course, ISIS is not just an organization that, as we know, only too well Afghanistan has to contend with. It really has become something of a global network, and countries like Turkey, where we are now, is also preparing, bracing itself for any sort of attack.
If we are ready, we are moving, the officer radio calls to his men. It's just past midnight, a few days before New Year's Eve, and across Istanbul, the police force is getting ready for a massive raid. The cell they want to bust is larger than most of their previous ISIS targets. And, we are briefed, is deemed to have the capacity to carry out an attack. Turks are wary and anxious this holiday season, following the pain and shock of last year's New Year's Eve terror attack, when a gunman opened fire on revelers at the Rana nightclub in Istanbul. And the security apparatus cannot afford to take any chances.
They're trying to move in as quietly as possible. This is part of a sweeping operation that is involving around 36 targets and hundreds of police officers.
Residents peer down but stay well indoors.
This is as far as we're being permitted to go at this stage. There have been instances in the past over the course of the last year where the targets have actually exploded suicide vests or attacked the officers with grenades and guns.
No one is authorized to go on camera, and the information disclosed to us is scant. The unit we are with is targeting a couple, believed to be the head of the cell that is also responsible for moving and housing fighters, ideological training, and recruitment.
The search is still ongoing. The couple has been apprehended, and it is believed at this stage that they are the ones that are the head of the entire cell.
There are no casualties on this night or any clashes. Video later released by the police force shows other targets, their homes searched and tossed for any grain of information. In all, 28 people were detained, and there have been regular crackdowns throughout the country. Over the last year, hundreds of ISIS suspects have been taken into custody, but the threat level remains high and casts a looming shadow over what should be a festive time.
The reality, as history has taught us, is that an organization like ISIS's defeat is not going to necessarily come about by trying to rid it of territory it controls or by killing or even throwing its members behind bars. It's going to require a tactic, an approach that is going to allow potentially for the defeat of its spreading ideology.
All right, Arwa Damon, thank you for that.